Very first meeting that we had in Salt Lake that was really just kind of an informal gathering. That was 9 conferences ago, so for us, pretty crazy. But I want to welcome everybody out. So good to see your faces, and fun to be here and have an opportunity to share with you over the next day and a half, 2 days. Covered material that hopefully will be really beneficial to your companies. Again, I can't extend enough thanks for you guys taking the effort to be here. There's a lot of, we love coming to Fort Worth, by the way. We've come here, it's about the 3rd or 4th time that we've been here. And it's really just a laid back, it's easy going. There's everything that you would want around this facility in terms of being downtown. And it's just the weather's usually pretty cooperative. I know it was cold on Sunday, so if you came in early, but get some little warm up over the last couple of days. So hopefully your time here will be enjoyable. Also want to just start by doing a quick introduction. So, you know, at the conference today, roughly 40 plus or so individuals, customers, some that are evaluating the software. That's a pretty traditional mix for what we have. Also just want to recognize our partners. They kind of congregate a little bit. I think we got them back in the corner there. Glenn and Mike and Doug and Tom and Dick, and Bert's in the middle managing his boom mic and his camcorder. So hopefully,
try to get it right this time.
Yeah, good. No technical difficulties. So we'll let him record that. Of course, you know, the most important part of the Acclamare partnership here, right there, Kevin Clark, obviously the code guy. You know, I talk about Kevin occasionally with folks when we get together talking about software. And let me just say that you know, some of you have been with us for a long time, or remember being with us with former companies. I mean, it's been 20 years. Pretty crazy. But I'll just want to say this about Kevin. You know, I worked with a lot of different programs, including Gary Simon, that many of you know, some of you have heard about. And you know, and Gary would be the first one to admit, and has on several occasions to me, that Kevin's ability to do the programming that he does is very unusual. So in terms of his ability, just off the charts. So thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
That's enough for that.
And you know, go get him in a good mood, and you can talk to him for 2 days. So this is our agenda for the next 2 days. You'll get an eyeful of me for 2 days. So I'll pretty much run the show for the next couple of days that we're in here. I'm going to spend just a second after we go over the agenda, talking a little bit about a couple of customers that have been on the software for a little while, and let them kind of share their story a little bit. I'll go through a little bit of what we've done in the past 11 months or so since our last conference. I'll talk a little bit about things that you would be seeing or could have seen, you know, in the last couple of months, or will be seeing at least in the next month or so if you adopt a new version, or when, I should say when you do. We'll go ahead and take a break at that point, and then we'll actually get right into content. So just as an FYI for those of you that are here doing some evaluation, try to solicit feedback for what attendees are interested in for the conference. Based on that feedback, we try to set the agenda. And so this year, based on the feedback that I got, we went ahead and just picked a few topics and decided to cover them in a little bit more depth than what we've done historically. In the past, sometimes we've covered, you know, 20 different topics, and we've done them at the 30,000 foot level, so to speak. and we're pretty superficial in how we were able to cover those. But for this conference, we've actually just picked a handful of topics. We'll spend more time in the software, kind of demonstrating some different things, areas that you might want to be aware of. So that's kind of the nature of the agenda. So at 10:30, we'll go into a little bit of collections. And I'll also spend some time going into regular accounts receivable to just show some of the newer features that are there that I'll end up highlighting here in just a second. So after our lunch break, just a reminder, we're on the 5th floor. Lunch is on the 7th floor, same place that you go for breakfast. They'll have a nice spread there for us at lunchtime, and obviously, you're all invited to partake of lunch at that time. And then come on back, 1:15, we'll get into Acclamare's pricing and costing hierarchy, talk about how pricing and costs are derived within the system. And then, 3:15 to 5-ish, I don't know if that'll be 5:15, 5:30, it all depends on how that session goes and what your questions are, but we'll spend some time going through the sales order interface, we'll pretty much tear it apart. We'll go through every piece of it. So hopefully, if you have questions in that area, you'll be able to get those answered. So just a reminder, lots of places to go here for dinner. Dinner's on your own, so most of the time you guys hook up in groups and find a nice spot to go. So obviously, Cheesecake Factory is always a good choice. Okay, right out, it's just a block away, and then there's a myriad of other places. Where did we go last year with the group? We went. It was like a small
Mercury Chalk House or something like
yeah, I think it might have been. But there's just some great steaks, ribs, whatever you're in the mood for, it's pretty much available in this downtown area and very close by. So tomorrow, we're doing our traditional split tracks. We'll allow in one of the tracks, which will be right out here in this little lobby area. They'll be right off of this lobby area, one of the classrooms right there. We'll have partners actually presenting some of their wares. So Bert will go ahead and show some of their e-commerce products, CRM. I'm excited to have Schmeely Grossbard do some presentations. A little bit nervous where you at. It's not really his cup of tea. I really encouraged him to do it because they have done some dynamite stuff. His company has really put together some amazing things that you'd be shocked to see. I'm shocked when I see them. Really cool stuff that integrates to Acclamare. They've got routines for allowing customers to come in, look at a big screen, see their Acclamare order, where the status of it is, where it's at, pickers with the ability to go up, use a lanyard and a scanner and say, give me the next order, and then based on priority, whether the customer's coming for a pickup and is at the counter right now, whether they're on their way, whether it's going on a transfer, whether it needs to be transferred right away, all these kinds of things. It'll kick out the order that they're looking for. They'll go pull it, and and along with integrations to Amazon, they've got a little delivery route optimization piece that's pretty cool stuff too, in terms of helping you determine, particularly in New York, the best route to take with your orders in terms of delivery with your trucks. So kind of maps it all out for them. Uses some of the mapping software that's available out there. So cool stuff. Mike, of course, has an opportunity as well with his group. Show you that warehouse management stuff that they use, handheld devices for optimizing your inventory at your warehouse. So lots of cool stuff that you can look at there. Of course, as an alternate track, you can just spend time with me. We'll go through areas of the software to just try to provide you with as much insight and information as we possibly can. Accounts payable will be pretty much the flavor of the day. So we'll spend at least 3.5 hours just going through payables from A to Z. So hopefully that will give some of you, again, some additional insight into things that you can do to more effectively use the software. And we'll talk about document control. That was requested by several of you. We'll dive into it, talk about things that you can do with your own custom forms, your own custom reports, and then how those integrate and tie into the application. All right. We'll wrap up tomorrow in our traditional way. Just spend a brief minute getting back together after all of those different tracks. It's very brief. Basically, thanks for coming. Enjoy a snack. Some of you will, just as a reminder, if you're, whatever time you're leaving tomorrow, they can either hold your bag down front or you can bring your bag in here. That's what we've done traditionally. So some of you will have flights to catch. I understand that at 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and so you'll have to leave around that 3 o'clock break. So that'll be kind of an extended break, and then following that, we usually have a closing session, which is really informal. It's really, we stick Kevin up here in front of us. You guys can kind of throw darts at us and give us feedback on things that you're interested in. I know that a lot of you haven't experienced our customer conference at this point, and one of the things that you'll find from those that keep coming back is that they really enjoy that session because they have things that they're interested in. We talk about it in a peer setting, other customers, other distributors that are interested in maybe the same kind of ideas. We can kind of expand upon those ideas, and those things usually find their way into a new version of the software within 30 to 60 days following the conference. So that's our agenda. So having said that, this year kind of taken a little different angle. I wanted to go ahead and recognize a couple of customers, talk about real briefly their successes. So I'm going to start with Vase Source, though. I'm going to start with Don Gelber's group out here. So Don and Don's company, Vase Source. Let me just see if I can figure out how to navigate this here. Let's just pop that open. Just open it here. You'll look at this website and go, why is that the default page? Well, this is another customer that we actually have here. They're local. They're in the, she'll be here this afternoon. They're in Addison, right? Mm-hmm. Addison, over on the north part of Dallas. So this is Vase Source. So Don Gelber's company here, they have 5 locations now? 4 locations. So they just opened a new one in Boston. So pretty cool business. If you happen to be right in downtown Manhattan, New York, they have a location right there, a really cool spot. They specialize in blown glass, I think is the way that Don usually describes it to me. But I mean, they're more diverse than that. I think I've got that here in the presentation, that they import wholesale floral supplies, accessories, primarily for event planners, or like if you go out, I remember the first time I met Don, and he actually came to this meeting. Yeah. And they were evaluating the software. I think we were out in this little lobby area right here, and there's some, you'll notice some Vazeware, if you will, right out there in that lobby. And I'm like, well, what do you do and what do you sell? And he goes, well, right there, this is what we do. So they it kind of always opens your eyes to realize how big certain businesses are that you just never think about. You just don't think about it. So, each of you go back into your hotel room, and on each of those on a nightstand or on a table right there, if there's some kind of floral arrangement, you know, that kind of glassware is exactly what they distribute. So they also do some to walk-in business, regular folks, but for the most part, it's pretty cool. Their showroom in Manhattan and the one in Boston, which I saw a little film of the other day, you know, they walk in, they usually partner with florists, so they share a space. So people come in to actually get different flowers or bouquets for whatever their event is. All of the Vase Source stuff is right there. And in Manhattan, their warehouse is actually underneath. It's underneath the main floor, so people come in, everything's barcoded. They have sales associates right there that have handheld devices. They just sit there and can scan, how many of those do you want, how many of those do you want, scan them up, produce a picking document down in the basement that gets pulled. They get pulled and bring the stuff up to the customer, and they pay for it. They pay for it right there on their pad. Swipe it. This is all in Acclamare, all done with some of the improvements from ERP interface, and out the door they go. So pretty cool stuff. You get a little look on how long they've been around in business. They were mainly at that one location in Manhattan, and I think they had that secondary warehouse that was in Brooklyn. Is that right?
Mainly it was Long Island City. That was the main location, and then I think about 2010 or 11 we opened the first church. So
Got it.
we're about 10 years just off of warehouse operation.
Gotcha. They just recently been about, what, a year and a half, 2 years that you've been in the New Jersey location?
Yeah, 2 years almost. Yeah.
So that they opened a nice facility there. They were on QuickBooks. That's a familiar story for some of you that also migrated from that. When did they go on Acclamare? Summer of 2014, 15 to 20 employees at that time. I think they are a 25 user license now with their new site. Top line revenue while they've been on the system up by around 50%. So what I really like is, as you can see here, Don's comments, better organized processes with his team, not having to focus so much on paperwork, but assisting customers and growing their business. So just a couple of things that I think are really cool. We asked a couple other questions of them about growth areas. I like this. Employees get to use extra time to better, improve customer service, focus on those things that help them, again, expand their business. And then just a couple things in conclusion here for Vase Source. I like this. I like the fact that they've added a lot of new products while they've been on the system, but they've also been able to add fewer employees but be better organized, which is obviously the name of the game. That's the kind of stuff that makes us happy. I love Don's advice here. So this is tremendous feedback right here. My biggest advice would be to work on the process. As you know, that's part of what we try to accomplish with our software, and that goes back to, the Dimosys legacy that kind of Gary laid out for us many years ago, and that is to write software that would introduce best business practices. So we've had a lot of customers over the years that adopt the software, and then they try to continue to run their old practices with the software, and oftentimes that doesn't work very well, because the software definitely is written with a certain flow and process in mind. So resisting that process causes inefficiency, but embracing it improves your overall processes. And we're willing to continue to refine, but it's not just software. Acclamare isn't just software you buy so that you can produce paper. It's to help you manage your business and to process more effectively. I really love that quote. So Don said they're still working very hard regarding their success story. And then I love that little quote that he finished with there, success, it's not owned, it's leased, and the rent is due every day. It's pretty good. Exactly right.
We have it in every location, actually, on the walls, pilot of synthesis.
It's great. All right, so Vase Source, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right, Blacoh. Now, you guys that have known me for a long time, I have 4 daughters. Okay, I've got 4 girls, and I don't know, maybe all that emotion wore off on me over the years. You know, I've just kind of adopted that. But so hopefully I don't get choked up here. Blacoh has been with us for a long time. Blacoh was the second company to adopt Acclamare. So we, without going through that whole story, which some of you are really familiar with, in a nutshell, it was we went into Source Associates, Doug Perkinson's location in San Jose. Went live, I think it was around July 23rd of 2007. And you know, that was really a big event for us. Obviously, you know, we had left that prior pretty good sized company. We'd been out on our own at that point for around 16 months, I guess, before we were ready to put our system in at Source Associates. And of course, it's not even the system wasn't a sliver of what it is today, but that was our start. And Doug helped us do that. Diana had been on Touchstone for years. She had adopted Inspire, and we told her that we were working hard on this new product, and we went into to Doug's, and she's like, yeah, just get me off this stuff that I'm on right now, so come on down. So, you know, it was terrific, and that's almost a quote. I mean, it was like, you know, we've been on this stuff that we're on. They were on Inspire, and they were having plenty of issues, and so it was like, come on down. So they've just been phenomenal, and their company has been phenomenal. So 2008, basically, actually, really more like November of 2007 is actually when I think we went live. And so in that period of time, I'll give you some background. I'll let Blacoh or Diana tell a little bit of the story here. So I'm familiar with Blacoh Fluid Control. That was the main part of the business that we've always known, but Blacoh has really grown and continues to do so. Maybe you can talk just a little bit about those other little pieces of your business.
Well, I'll show you what we started with. This picture right here, this is what we started with. That was the only thing that we made. And then we made one twice that size, and then it just went from there. The surge control division is now we're making, I think this is 6,000 gallons. So we're making vessels like this. All of this, a lot Troy doesn't know much about, because we're doing all of this with Acclamare and no changes. And the other thing that I'll say that went along with what you were saying about process, we got our ISO certification 2 years ago. And I don't even know if Troy knew about that, because we didn't have to have a single change in our software to get our ISO certification. So ISO is pretty rigorous. It's getting more rigorous. And I don't even think you knew about it.
No.
So when he says it's process driven, it really is, but it's the right process. So we don't change much. We just keep enhancing it. We're the ones that should thank Troy. I don't know where we'd be without them. There's no way we'd be able to do it.
I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit more information here, so you can see how long Blacoh's been around. This is what's pretty cool. Diana's been springing this on us. We're a little nervous, Diana, about this, by the way. But they are opening they're just opening an office in Germany.
It'll be our first stocking warehouse out of the country.
So that's a big deal for us, because obviously that'll introduce some foreign currency requirements that we've already kind of laid the groundwork for. So we already have the foreign currency piece on the accounts payable side. We already have all the tags and all the things done on the AR side. There's just a little bit of fleshing out still to do there. But
Awesome.
Needless to say, Diana had a partner. Is he still involved, the original guy,
Chairman
Gary?
of the board. Yeah, he still comes to work every day.
All right.
But yeah, we bought him out 2 years ago, so now it's me and another partner.
Which I know your picture comes up here. Let me get to the part where we talk a little bit about Blacoh and Acclamare. This is really cool. Diana's a marketing guy went ahead when I asked the questions. She's like, oh, he'll throw something together. So needless to say, this is what he went ahead and did. So this kind of gives you a little background on them. They've been using Acclamare since late 2007. This is the cool part right there. So product revenue in the time they've been on Acclamare has grown 4 times. So their company has really expanded in the period of time that they've been on Acclamare just in the last 8 to 9 years. This is the more fun part for us. Okay, so keep in mind that the business itself has grown revenue-wise by 4 times. So these things are fun for us. And I hope they're inspiring for some of you. Inside sales staff, so 1.5 people, still 1.5 people. 9 years later, but 4 times the revenue. IT staff went from basically 1.5 persons in terms of resource to half. So they're down a position there over that period of time with 4 times the growth. And then you can see the rest of these that make sense. Admin staff grown by 2 from 3 to 5. Outside sales, as you would imagine, with that kind of revenue growth, 2 to 10. There's your marketing folks, engineering, manufacturing, and cool part about that too is they've added 1 more buyer, again, 4 times the growth of where they were at. So that's pretty cool stuff for us. That's kind of, I share that. It's as uplifting for me probably as anybody. So.
And on the purchasing, before we were just purchasing, we were just issuing POs and putting up with bad vendors. Now we manage our vendors. That's what that second person is for. We really work on our vendor relationships. We do a lot of site visits. We qualify our vendors. So that person isn't doing process. Our purchasing people do very little. I don't think our purchasing people are the ones that issue the POs because we're just doing replenishment, and it's pretty much a clerical task because we make sure that what we put in Acclamare is correct. So they deal with the actual vendor relations and not with the paperwork side.
Cool.
So awesome process, Troy.
I appreciate that. So just kind of wrapping this piece up. This is again, Diana, thanks for this feedback. Relationship with Acclamare has given us the power our competitors don't have. And I would just say that we have the power that our competitors don't have. I've been asked that question. Who are your guys' competitors? They're big companies. Companies that we compete with are like the company that we came from, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. But we were there. We were in the development area of that company. And the problem that they have is that in order to make a single change, you got to go through about 6 different people in order to make it happen. Literally, you go from a sales guy to a sales engineer to someone that's going to write spec to someone that's actually going to write the code to someone that's going to actually end up looking at the code and testing it in-house. And those are all different resources, and the communication between them is, it is what it is. I mean, you got 5 or 6 people all trying to work on one particular change in the application. It really makes it hard for them, particularly with their outdated technology, to be able to make the kind of changes that we make. So flexibility helps us. Nice little plug for Advantage. So, originally we went to Blacoh straight out. Acclamare, I mean, we obviously couldn't pick up any bars without the credibility that we had a working product. So it was critical to us to obviously get successful installations. Blacoh was the second one we had. So we kept, it wasn't the easiest thing in the world to do to give up accounts, particularly like Blacoh, and say, all right, Bert, go take care of them. But Advantage has just done a tremendous job. They've been awesome. They've expanded their capability. That website you saw, Vase Source, is same thing. Advantage has put together some phenomenal stuff on the web for Blacoh with their website, because they're a very specialized business with what you just saw there. And so they've really got some cool stuff on the web that Advantage has helped them with. So without going through too much, I like a couple of these other pieces that you see here. I like that these are their words, easy to train their staff, and that's nice. Team loves their ERP. You know, I went through a period of a lot of sleepless nights before Acclamare with other products, and I actually would go to some sites and I'd see, not Acclamare, but prior to Acclamare, I'd see the software company icon on the desktop of the company that I was working with, and then the description underneath there, sometimes not very flattering. They'd write whatever they want to write under there, you know, to call it what they'd want to call it on whatever day it was. So, you know, and I'm not so naive that I don't think that could happen again today, but it was common back then, and it's fun to not be in that world. All right, there's kind of similar, their tagline at motto of Blacoh, one team, one dream. I really like the fact that you guys are so team focused and team oriented.
Very much so.
And I know that there's some pictures of their team here. You know, they're really, what a fun organization. They're a fun business to be at, fun environment to work in. You know, and I think all of that kind of also feeds into their success. You know, when everybody's upbeat and everybody's excited and the energy is positive, I think it really helps them to grow their business. And, you know, credit to the leadership there, which happens to be Diana, and obviously that's your partner now, Andrew, and then there's a look at some of their folks. So thank you again. Thanks.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate Blacoh. Just fun for us. We've never done a spotlight series kind of like this in the past, simply because we've tried to just focus as much as we can on content and delivering that to you. And I just thought this year that it'd be a good opportunity for us to kind of just let you see some successes out there. So, and for the most part, those that attend the conference, you know, they have their own success stories in various areas, and they attend the conference because they like the software. So it's kind of, you know, preaching to the choir type of stuff in a lot of cases. But I hope that just going over a couple of those things kind of can inspire you a little bit. I mean, this isn't all just about just, you know, boring software. Software's not that exciting, you know. It really isn't that exciting. We get kind of excited about it, but obviously that's what we do. But, you know, I think the librarian's excited about what he or she does, and, you know, but for a lot of us that might not be very thrilling either. So needless to say, I think that's just kind of a change of pace for everybody. So moving on, thank you again so much. Thanks to each of you for being here. You know, just because we focused on those two customers doesn't mean that there aren't a slug of you in here that we feel like we could do the same thing with. So we really appreciate it and look forward to doing it in the future. In terms of where we're at development-wise, okay, just a quick reminder, there are a couple of evaluators that are in here. So I just want you to understand how we develop the software. I'm going to give a status report and talk about new features that are in the software in the last 11 months. But I want everyone to understand how those new features and how those new versions come about. So again, we make enhancements to the software based on a number of different factors, and we continue to enhance the software. We've got evaluators here that have been on software that hasn't been enhanced for 6 or 7 years. All right, legitimately, they haven't actually, you know, been putting out new updates, and even then, some of the updates that were provided for that particular application or other applications are sometimes just meant to plug holes rather than really extend functionality. And so we're constantly looking to expand functionality. So one of the things that we look to do is we just look at what's going on in the marketplace. So enhancements, some of them just come from us. Okay, Kevin keeps his eye on IT, what's going on. Obviously, we're in the Microsoft environment on a Microsoft platform. But one of the things that we spend time doing is actually evaluating new technologies as they become available. One of those, I'll give you an example. Right now, which won't mean anything to you because it doesn't mean a whole lot to me. But we use for communication through the Acclamare system something called .NET remoting. And you know, when we actually adopted .NET remoting, we started writing Acclamare, it was the best way to handle remoting. I mean, server to client communication. And you know, over the years, it's changed. And so we're in the process right now of evaluating migrating Acclamare from .NET remoting to you know, a more current technology in terms of remoting. Not that .NET remoting isn't still really effective and good. It's just a lot of the development, a lot of the operating systems, a lot of the things that that you can take advantage of with hardware and performance and other types of features over time. We will be better placed if we make sure that we keep the software fresh and keep on top of those types of changes in technology. So we look at that. We look at it for both you and for us. You know, product keeps growing, keeps actually staying fresh with the technology that's out there. Obviously, that's good for us, it's good for you. New accounts obviously drive some of our enhancements. So, you know, we get their feedback, things that they need, things that they have to have, and then we look to expand upon those to make them work for everybody as much as we possibly can. So existing accounts, right here, those of you that are in the group, customer conference, James, I think last night I ran into James, they just got into town. He mentioned, you know, we were pretty thrilled that after we came to the conference last year, we had a list of quite a few items, and then almost all of them found their way into the software in the next, you know, few months thereafter. And that's pretty traditional for what we do here. We like to listen to what your feedback is and then incorporate it into the application. So it's a big part of that. So, and then of course, we put all of those enhancements and bug reports into our own system. We track that. We're obviously always looking to continue to expand our use, if you will, of that application. You know, documentation is always something that comes up. You'll see a bunch of documentation in this presentation over the next 2 days. So all of that we're looking to get incorporated into our wiki site. Something that we're really hoping to get up and going over this year. So here's where we've been in the last not quite 12 months, a little less than that. So 3 general release versions, basically 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 last year. That's a significantly slower pace in terms of number of versions than our prior years. I mean, that's the fewest versions that we've put out in a year since we've been doing this. And that's partially based on feedback in terms of customers saying, you know, can we slow the pace down? Because we were doing as many as a new version a month for a long period of time there. And so it was hard to keep pace, hard to keep up. You know, it was a lot of content that was hard for customers to actually know what was coming and learn to adopt what was coming. Usually they were features that expanded areas. They weren't features that necessarily inhibited current processes, but they were things that they just went in the software and they had no idea what they do because there were just too many of them. So 2017.1.0 is actually on my laptop, and that's the only place that it is right now. So that'll be fun for the next couple of days. See how we do. All right. These versions that in the past year, roughly 200 enhancements and program fixes. So, you know, again, That number, 200 is probably the lowest that we've had over the past number of years. Again, going back to kind of what we talked about, some of the things we've done have been a little bit bigger, a little more meaty. I'll talk about a couple of the things that actually occupied our time, what they were, and how they impact you. So 3 to 4 more versions this year. As always, they're going to contain things from this conference. So, we'll look forward to getting your feedback tomorrow afternoon on that. So, next version is due out. I put around the last week of March. It's on my laptop. It'll probably be in the field within a week of when I get back to the office. We'll have a couple of sites that install that and actually start running it for a couple of weeks before we go general release by the end of the month. All right, so what's been added? Let me just highlight this real quick. This is something that you are probably aware of, but probably don't look at that much. Just a reminder in terms of look and feel. These are all new. Office 2016 colorful, Office 2016 dark, Office 2016 black. These are different skins that you can put on the interface. So we continue to add to those. The reality of it is that these are provided by a third-party company. We don't spend any development time on this whatsoever. These come to us as a part of our subscription with another software development company. So I don't want you to think that we spend any time, creating these. We don't. We just adopt them. And from what I understand, there's so many of them now that they're looking to basically scale it down a little bit. Get rid of maybe some of the older ones. As you remember, here's your bonus. So, these are all, again, different skins that you can lay out on top of the application. I won't spend really any time over the next couple of days going into it. I just so you can see Office 2016, black in this case, what the layout or what the skin is. I've been using this Office 2016. Says it's colorful. I like the clarity of it. But it's, blue, red, kind of uses shades of blue to highlight some of the fields, things like that. So obviously we always have adopted, or we look to adopt those new skins that come in. Attached documents. I'm not going to spend really any time talking about attached documents this year. Needless to say, for those of you that are evaluating the software, attached documents basically give you the ability to take any document you get, whether it be it's any electronic document. So if you get a quote request, if you have some kind of picture, if you have some kind of spec, if you have some kind of spreadsheet, doesn't matter whether it's a PDF or whether it's anything that your computer will read, you can attach to a sales order for historical reference. So go into the sales order, look at what attached documents were associated to that. Same thing with a quote, vendor invoices, customer payments. We've incorporated that, as you can see now, into purchase orders. You'll actually be able to scan. You got Doug here. This is something that we added for Doug and some of Doug's clients that we're looking for the ability to attach. Is it packing slips that they wanted, Doug? Are they spec sheets?
Receivers, bill of ladings, freight billings.
So we incorporated the ability for companies to go ahead and scan that paper with whatever their scanning solution is, and those electronic or digitized documents will then tie right to the purchase order for historical reference purposes. Again, all the paper that you typically have at a business that's in filing cabinets can all be electronically kept in Acclamare and associated to to those processes. So it's basically the desire to be paperless from that standpoint. Okay. Customer credits, we've introduced just the ability to quickly drill from the credit back to the originating document, whether it be an RMA or an unreturned merchandise document. This is where we spend a bunch of our time, the Acclamare Command Center. Let me just show it to you real quickly. Okay, so this is the Command Center. We used to have something called the Acclamare Configuration Utility. Some of you that were more in the administrative part of your business would be familiar with that. That's gone. The Acclamare server itself, which used to run jobs and have a little bit of an interface to it, all of that logic's been stripped out of the middle tier server and moved into the Command Center. The Command Center can run on whoever it can run on your server, but it can run on whoever your administrator's computer is. Basically runs jobs, as you can see here, or scheduled tasks. These tasks, refreshing of account balances or running fill routines or posting bookings that get cached during the day, whatever it may be, your monthly reorder control calculation, which coincidentally just happens to be tonight. These routines will fire through the Command Center. Also in the Command Center is a lot of functionality that used to be in the configurator and in other areas. So you can set up your required fields in here. I'll talk about required fields later this afternoon when I'm in the sales order portion of the presentation. Customizable fields. So obviously you can have your custom fields in all of these areas. Some of these are new since last conference. So any one of these areas that's specified here provides you the ability to create up to 10 custom fields. So again, what is a custom field? Well, if we have numerous fields in the system, for instance, I wrote you have this on your flash drives. Everybody's got a flash drive and it contains this presentation, all the presentations today, tomorrow, as well as everything that we covered in our workshops yesterday. So that's on your flash drive. And one of the things that I did that's also on your flash drive is I put together, there's a 21-page document, that's single space with about 10,500 words that just covers sales order entry. All right? Field definitions, how do I do this, how do I do that, common questions, those kinds of things. One of the things that I realized when I was putting together that document is that there are roughly 111 fields in our sales order entry screen. Okay? That many are available. All right? I mean, you can customize what you want on your screen. You might only have 6, whatever. But there are that many different fields available, and if those aren't enough, you can put your own custom fields on there. So you label them, you call them whatever you want, and then you can utilize them. So those are at the sales order header and line level. We added them to the customer quote line. I know that's one of the areas that's fairly new. So again, the Command Center here is an administrative tool that allows you to set up your users. So when you set up new users, set up user security, it's right here, schedule jobs. This is a big reason why we actually went to the Command Center. Schedule jobs, we kind of have broken it out into an interface here that'll allow you to add your own scheduled jobs, and we plan on expanding this. This is just basically the first phase of the command center, but the command center can be expanded so that it will handle outside of what already exists within reporting services, the ability to schedule the delivery of, monthly statements, or, schedule different types of reports and forms when you want them to go, how you want them to go, that kind of thing. So. All right. It also will allow you to see who's currently logged into the application. So, and it'll allow you to terminate their session. So, if you just want to see who's out there, what licenses are being occupied right now, and if you wanted to, had some reason to kick somebody off so you could get in, then that gives you the ability to do it. All right. So the command center is new. All right.
Troy?
Yeah.
Isn't there some other scheduled jobs that weren't showing in your grid there? I mean,
Yeah. Sales invoice post isn't in there. Replenishment's not in there. Yep. There's some, and it's a good question. So there's some other jobs that weren't on there that you could put in there. But one of the things that we did with this when we put together the command center is basically re-architected the function of how those tasks run, so that we kind of ensure that they don't step on each other's toes. All right, so that they basically fire in an orderly sequence, so that basically one's firing and waiting for another one to complete. But what we found is over the past few years is that for certain companies in their environments, certain jobs would fire simultaneously, and it would tax basically their server or their database from the standpoint that one table would be occupied or locked. Wouldn't necessarily take very long. The jobs would finish quickly, or they would fail quickly, so because it couldn't run. So basically we were able to accommodate I think pretty much everybody's environment with the changes that we've made. So that's the command center. The installation wizard. So we completely changed the way that we deliver updates. All right. So now some of our partners, I think, they've been getting an education on that process. The whole idea behind our changes with how the software is delivered is to make it easier for you guys to adopt it, and to make it easier for our partners that actually have source code and write enhancements to also be able to adopt a new version by being able to incorporate their stuff. So we've kind of made it more flexible and easier to use. And the installation wizard is important for you guys to understand from this perspective. It will go in once it's set up the first time, once it's all configured, then all you do is you literally just get a single file. It's got three little pieces in it. Those get moved into an installation folder. You fire the install routine, and then it steps you through a wizard that runs in literally a couple of sites we've got out there that are as big or bigger than most of the companies in here. That update's done in 2 to 3 minutes at the most. Okay, just like that. Database updated, all the clients updated, Miltier, everything gets updated. Okay, so really a huge change, and a lot of development was spent doing that. And again, why did we do it? We always were still doing enhancements and updates that were pretty easy to adopt, to be honest with you. This made it easier. This made it, I hate to say it this way, don't be offended, because it's not intended that way, but we dumbed it down, all right? We dumbed it down substantially, so that once a partner or whoever your technical resource is that's installed it the first time, it's literally just click, express update, click, finish. That's it. So it's like nothing has to be thought about. There's nothing complicated in terms of what decisions do I make. It just runs. And we did it not because we had problems the old way, but we were concerned that maybe some customers weren't adopting updates quickly enough. They were getting a year behind or 2 years behind or however far behind they were getting because they couldn't do it on their own. And their partner was too busy or had something else going on or for whatever reason. We just wanted to remove another obstacle to people staying current. So we tried to make the updates as easy as we possibly could. Because it's in our interest to keep everybody's current, because we know if you're current, you'll be much happier on the software because of all the things that we continue to do within it. All right, counter sales. These things I'm just going to cover fairly quickly. You've got this information available, so we and this kind of went to these were conference things that came. GVS uses counter sell stuff. One-step completion to be able to get somebody at the counter. You're using the counter sell interface. There's one button now that allows you to quickly take a payment, print a receipt, and basically print out the invoice and conclude the transaction. We just added some functionality that you'll be seeing that allows you basically to reference an original invoice while you're in the counter sale and add multiple lines. This is a Champion Bolt request that actually is recently just got added into the software. So we've made some changes there as well. And you'll see that as I get to customer returns or credits here in just a second. Customer contact maintenance and vendor contact maintenance, both. Been given their own menu access point. Used to be just access. You have to go into the customer, go to contacts. Go into the vendor, go to contacts. They have their own access point now for companies that want to secure the customer maintenance area and the vendor maintenance area but still want their people to be able to access the contacts area. Okay, so we basically broke them out into their own menu option so that you could secure those other areas. All right, customer payment has been expanded largely for cash payments as well as a couple others. We did add the auto apply logic recently. Some of you I'm sure do not have this. Auto apply basically allows you to, doesn't matter how many invoices a customer has open. Let's say they've got 30 open invoices and they send you a check for X amount of money, and then you just say auto apply. It's going to auto apply to the oldest documents as far as it can go and just burn through those funds. All right, that was added for a couple of sites that didn't want to specifically look at remittance advice and match it up. All right, customer payments. Again, just an additional piece here. We are in the process in this new version of adding logic that lets you take a deposit against a sales order. What does that mean? You could always do that, but it was not handled the same way it's going to be handled now. So basically, a deposit's going to go into an AR deposits account in the general ledger. And deposits won't show up on your AR aging. So that's where, we've got a couple customers, one that'll be here later this afternoon, where they sell, commercial washers and dryers, and some of their sales are somewhere between $50,000 and $350,000 on a single order. And so they take a deposit, fairly large deposit, that in order to start buying that equipment, and they needed a method to be able to take those funds and not have it impact their regular accounts receivable, because those were deposits against future, sales and services. So we've made a change to allow them to do that.
Only one deposit?
What's that?
To be able to take multiple deposits or only one deposit?
Yeah, you can take multiple, but they're against a particular sales order at this time.
Multiple against the ticket sales, and you'll be able to.
I don't know the answer to that.
We're not that far yet.
Yeah, I think it's just 1-to-1 at this point. So, customer quotes, bunch of new stuff that's coming, that's been requested in the quote area. This, I tried to butter Kevin up at the start of this thing. This is probably take him right back down. He gets heartburn when we get to this point. So, customer quotes, we've incorporated things that that we literally said, you know, in years gone by that we would never do. So, estimated sales tax, one-time shipping address logic. You know, we did add, I mean, we really like these features. These not so much. These we really like. Okay, follow-up date columns, good. Full cancel note areas, nice for tracking. Those other areas basically mean that we end up with 2 different sales order interfaces. You know, that's the challenge. If we put all the logic almost that exists in the sales order inside the quote, now we just got 2 sales order areas. Anytime somebody requests something in one, it duplicates the work. So it's many, you know, if they're the same, starts to be a head scratcher over a period of time. Yeah, Don.
Any information on the follow-up date column, meaning when the day comes, it shoots an email to the sales
Well, you can,
force?
I mean, you can incorporate, you know, all your automatic reporting on, you know, all your subscription reporting and everything based on that follow-up date. So, yeah, I mean, that's the idea there is that, you know, whatever reports that you have for salespeople right now, you know, you can use that follow-up date. It's a date that it's optional. It's blank by default. So if they set the date and they use it, then, you know, it's something that you can trigger or utilize, that kind of thing. And it's, again, I mean, customer quotes are customer quotes. They're not CRM, you know. We're not taking anything away from BERT or Advantage on this. We're just kind of expanding some of the basic functionality in that area. All right?
We'll just incorporate it in the CRM as well.
It's good. Great. All right, customer refunds. You can get that one. Original credit card payment now can be just basically reversed. Boy, there are a lot of quid pro quos with that one. In terms of what, you know, that's complicated. If it's a one-to-one thing, it's pretty easy to do the refund. But sometimes people pay with a credit card, you know, they'll pay 3 invoices, you know, and then they'll return one item off of one of those invoices. So you can't do a reversal like that. I mean, it just doesn't work. But where it does work, when it's one-to-one, you know, those kinds of things, you know, with payment logistics, that functionality is in there now. Yeah.
Is that for if you have the credit card part included in here where you do it all through Acclamare, or if we do
Yes.
Because we do it manually.
No, it's actually using the integration to payment logistics.
Okay.
We've got the original token from the original transaction. We use that to go ahead and do it. Okay, customer returns. I just mentioned this. This is kind of a big deal. You know, for a long time, we kind of held to our guns that customer returns were basically one return to one invoice. Okay, that's kind of, I mean, we kind of had stuck to that because there were logical reasons. We wanted to make sure that tax and commissions and things like that were reversed exactly as they were. So we basically have expanded the footprint in returns now that we removed the sales invoice field entirely. So a lot of you guys haven't seen this. So when you go into a customer return, there's the customer and there's a warehouse and then there's a sales invoice field for you to enter the invoice number. That's removed. So now a return will work a lot like, for instance, a purchase order to a receipt. There's a button that says add invoice to this return. So you can select it and it'll add the lines from that invoice. Add another invoice, it'll add those lines to the return. So you can reference unlimited number of different invoices on a single return. All right?
When you make an invoice, all the lines of the invoice are going to come in.
All the lines come in and you check the one that they're specifically returning. Correct. All right, that'll allow us we'll go ahead and by line, we will reverse the original taxes and do our best to estimate on commissions for those of you using the commission piece. Okay, document settings, we added the ability to have a permanent blind carbon copy. So some of you have wanted more in terms of the email tracking through Acclamare. So obviously, you've always been able to email your stuff out of Acclamare, but this will enable you, if you want, to actually put in a permanent blind card copy so that literally every email that goes out of the Acclamare system, a copy goes to whatever email address that is that you specify. All right?
Thank you.
So
Yes.
that's available in there, and again, as it notes right there in that bullet, that'll hold multiple email addresses if you have more than one that you want to get a blank copy. Again, that's a permanent. We always had the ability, well, we've had the ability for blind copying for a long time on a email by email basis. This is something that's in document control that you'd see in my session tomorrow at 1 o'clock. When we go through document control, you'll see this field. That's a permanent static field that you can say, for this particular document, invoice or statements or whatever, always blank copy this address.
That's document-wide, right? Not by user?
Nope, it's by form. Yep, it's by form. Okay, item search. We added some additional statistics, mainly for like fastener guys and those that deal with a lot of differing SKU and quantity unit of measure scenarios. So now you can add to your item search. You'll have both quantity available in the quantity unit of measure, quantity available in the SKU unit of measure. So the translation's already done for you and you can already see it on the screen. That's been added to the item search results. Also a visual clue, or cue as we call them, has been added to the item search to quickly allow you to see that cue, and I'll cover this in the sales orders later this afternoon, new items that have been added to your system. All right, physical count, mentioned it yesterday in Doug's session. There's a new feature in there that allows you basically to, if you got a cycle counting program, whatever your program is, there's a new button in there that basically says if we haven't sold this item since the last time we counted it, we don't want to count it this time. Shouldn't have changed. So that's for companies that do cycle counting or whatever. You know, as you go through, if an item has had no activity whatsoever since the last time you counted it, it can be excluded from your count. That was, I think, something that might have come from the conference last year.
That was from Barry.
That's a pretty good suggestion. Yeah, Spa Parts Club. So I like that feature. Price and cost update. Way to go ahead and upload your vendor costs from an Excel spreadsheet. I will cover that later this afternoon. Purchase order, I'll cover the cancel remaining stock lines there, and we added some notes as well. These basically, we always had the notes, but now we've incorporated a file maintenance area in Acclamare that will allow you to basically create a note that you use all the time so that you can, you know, instead of having to retype it all the time, you can select it. You can select it and add it to your note so that, you know, basically build a small library of repeatable phrases or words or what have you that you always use. Okay, in replenishment, we've always noted, again, talked about this yesterday, you have special order demand. So you have sales orders that are looking for non-stock items. Within replenishment now, the actual sales order reference is provided within the reason column. All right, we also added the ability, I think again, Champion Bolt. In this case, buyer can manipulate the unit of measure in the worksheet. So, you know, there might be usually buy it from the vendor by the box, but maybe there's some instance that you need to be able to buy it by the case. And so, you know, you can make that change in a replenishment worksheet now. Even though the standard way that you buy it from that vendor is this, there might be circumstances where you need to buy it in a different unit of measure. You can do that from replenishment now. Sales invoice, we just enhanced the totaling logic within that. Not worth probably going into. Sales order cancel notes came from the conference last year. Vase Source request. We added a file maintenance area. And now at the field level, within a sales order, you actually have, you know, where you put your item and your quantity and what's committed and your customer price all in the line in sales order, and I'll cover that this afternoon. There's a new field where you can put in cancel notes as to why that line got canceled. So if you're looking to track that, you can. Sales order, we added a feature for picking labels. So if your method of pulling merchandise isn't necessarily using a pick ticket, maybe you use both pick ticket and pick labels. That's something that we recently incorporated. We also, in this new version, we added an area that some of you that use the integration to UPS or FedEx have always had. So you go into a sales order and you want to look at tracking information. In Acclamare, there's always been a list for those of you that use UPS or FedEx showing you, well, here's the tracking numbers and here are the invoices that were tied to those tracking numbers. But if you didn't input tracking numbers, then although you could see the sales order here and look in your dynamic inquiry, and you could pretty much interpret, well, there's the invoice that came from this order. If you had multiple that came from that order, it wasn't really easy to decipher. So we added a little view right off the sales order now that if there have been multiple invoices off of that sales order, regardless of, shipping information, UPS, FedEx, LTL, doesn't matter. There's now a view that will just show you, here are all the invoices that have been spawned from this one order.
And part of the purpose of that is to see if you use this in your company, what your picker and packer work.
Okay, cool. Who picked it? Who packed it? Okay, I already mentioned vendor contact, vendor invoice. I'll go through these features tomorrow. We recently added a reversal feature that I'll want to show that really can potentially just do away with the need to do AP adjustments altogether on existing vendor invoices. All right, depends. You could use this feature to literally not have to do any more AP adjustments on a vendor invoice that you had some error on.
Yes.
Can basically fix it. That's what it boils down to.
Yes.
All right. Even after it's been posted. No. No. There are restrictions. We'll go through them tomorrow. All right. Same thing, vendor payments. We added an additional filter to the grid there to be able to allow companies that use classes to more effectively segregate those vendors when they're putting together a check run. All right. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. I'm a little early, but we'll break for probably 10, 15 minutes. Grab a drink, make a phone call, refresh your coffee.